What's up guys, it's your favorite QB coach. This is part 2 to the video that was previous to this one. The previous video we talked about a player who hit 14 shots with a 7-iron, and we basically established his lateral grid dispersion, as well as we sectioned off different yardages from the right and the left and how many shots he hit within those yardages. If you guys haven't watched that video, go ahead and check that one out first, because again, this video is directly correlated or related to that last video, so you need to make sure that you watch that video for this video to make sense. If you have watched that video, let's go do this thing. Alright guys, so if you guys are new to the website content, what I want you guys to do is either scroll up or scroll down. I want you guys to enter in your email and subscribe to our newsletter. Every single time we drop a new video, we're going to be announcing it on that newsletter, so I want you guys to sign up so you guys can get notified every single time we drop a video. So hopping into this video, what are some of the main points I want you guys to get away from this video? Well, I want you guys to be able to answer this one question. It's, Mike, should I go for this shot? Or should I hit this shot? When should I hit this shot? Again, this video is giving you all the actual statistics, the percentages, so you guys can go out there on the course and be like, you know what? This shot has about a 75% chance of me pulling it off. Or this shot has an 85% chance. You guys will literally know the actual percentages to pull off certain shots. And if you guys can know that, you guys are gonna be able to strategize a little bit more effectively, and you guys aren't just going out there and guessing. Because again, I can actually say probably 100% of amateurs go out there and don't use this knowledge, and it's what the tour players do, and it's something called strokes gained. They know their percentages to pull off certain shots, and they know how basically the percentages with each club, right? They're very, very analytical on the PGA Tour, and they actually have statisticians that do all this work for them, so their caddies can know you have this percentage of chance of pulling off this shot in this scenario at this course, with this wind, with this lie. They're super heavily detailed. Now, unfortunately for the average public out there, you can't really do that because you don't have something called ShotLink, which is a company that goes and databases millions and millions of tour players' shots. You don't have that, but what you do have is you have your boy, the QB coach here, who's going to give you maybe a kind of a modified version of strokes gain, a little dummied down version, to hopefully help you guys out there establish some more statistical effective ways to play the golf course. Alright guys, so what you're currently looking at right now is a 3D view of Grandage Golf Club, more specifically hole number 3. Now we're going to be going from almost kind of the front tees and showing you guys a shot of 160 yards to a back pin, and ultimately showing you guys the data utilizing the player we talked about in the previous video, and should he hit the shot at this pin, right? Because we get this question all the time. Tuck back pin, should we go for this shot? What are the percentages? What do you need to know? So let's go dive in real quick. So first off, I want to establish that this is a 160-yard shot, and I'm going to show you how to do this with Google Earth. Again, we talked about this in previous videos, but I want to do it one more time. So there's going to be a little ruler icon. I want you to click on that. It's going to switch you to a 2D view. Now I want you to go from the tees that you guys are playing from. I switch the feet into yards. You add a point, and then you scroll. So a 160-yard shot is the back of the green on this particular tee box. Now the reason why we're using 160 yards is because remember, the player's average 7-iron carry distance was right around 160 yards, and we're going to talk a little bit more about long to short dispersion in other videos, but again, we're just focused on kind of the lateral. Now, a really important part of this is something that I call the angle into the green. Super, super important. So if you can think about the angle as if you see me looking straight at you, this would be the angle, right? If I had this tilted off this way, that would be the incorrect angle to start looking at your laterals, because again, I'm not aiming this way, I'm aiming at you. So you got to be very specific with the angles, because again, sometimes tee boxes are on different sides, sometimes you're on different sides of the fairway and the angle into the green changes. You need to have the angle dialed in when you're using Google Earth to get this efficiently. And if we kind of zoom out real quick, so if I get 160 yards real quick, actually, just right around here, add that point, and then I kind of zoom out real quick and show you something, you can kind of see the angles. So the point went away, but if you guys can see the angles from this tee box over here. So make sure you got that down. That is step number 1. All right, step number 2, you got to know what handicap you are for this to work out. And let me kind of explain what that means. So each hole on the golf course, on the scorecard, there'll be something that says the handicap for that particular hole. So the handicap just tells us how hard the hole is, right? If it's the number 1 handicap hole, it's the toughest hole on the golf course. If it's the 18 handicap hole, it's the easiest hole on the golf course. Now, why is that important? Well, let me give you a quick little scenario. So this particular golfer that we showed you the data on, I think he's right around a 13 handicap. So that means the 13 hardest holes, if he makes a bogey on it, it's technically a par. Now the 5 easiest holes, right, which would be 14 through 18, if you made a bogey on it, it'd be an actual bogey, right? That's kind of how you can establish your handicap goals. Now, so for this player, if they want to break their handicap, what they're trying to do is on the 1 to 13 hardest holes, they're trying to get a couple pars on those holes, and then maybe bogey the rest, and then par the easy holes, right? Or if they make a double on a hole, they got to start switching up their game plans. We're going to talk about that way more in depth in future videos, but for now, let's just say this particular hole was the number 4 handicap hole. So for them, if they make a bogey, it's really not a big deal, right? So this player, if they want to play under the conservative mode, right? There's certain modes I talk about. This one, we're trying to play conservative, which means they're trying to play for the bogey. What they're going to need to know is, okay, what is the playable range they can hit within and still have a great percentage or a great chance to make bogey? So anyways, let's keep that in mind. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go right where the middle, or basically where the pin is, which this one's in the back, and we're going to add a point. Now, when we draw this lateral line, remember, I want you to keep that angle that we talked about earlier kind of in your mind while you're doing this. So first off, let's go figure out how far it is from the angle of the tee box to the green. So right now this is in feet. Let me switch this to yards real quick. So it's right around 18.5 yards right to the edge of the water. Let's go find how far it is to the bunker on the left. So the bunker on the left is right around 12.8 yards, and then the tree line is right around 22.1 yards basically left to get into the trouble. Cool, so that pretty much gives us our grid of, I call it playable range, right? If you're in the trees, it's playable technically, it's definitely not in the water, it's better than the water, but it's really not playable in terms of, playable just means this player probably has a pretty good chance of making bogey from that position. So what we got to figure out now is we got to figure out, remember, this player had a high deviation to the left and a low deviation, or excuse me, a high deviation to the right, and then we also sectioned out categories and we figured out how many shots fall into those categories. So if this player aimed directly at this pin, remember they have right around 18 yards to the water. So let's go hop back to our notes and figure out how many shots is this player, if they aimed at this pin, going to hit into the water. So let's go hop back to that real quick. So we hop back to our notes, again, from basically 18 yards to the right and greater, this player has about 2 shots out of 14 shots they're going to hit into the water, right? So there's a 14% chance if this player aims at the pin that they're going to hit into the water. Now, this is all great, but we also want to figure out what is their percentage of chance if they aim at this pin to hit it into the tree line, right? Because the tree line could possibly bring in the double bogey, right? Which is what we're trying to not do, right? So let's go hop back to Google Earth. And let's draw that same angle and let's see. So we got right around 21.6 yards left to get into kind of the start of the tree line, and that's where we're gonna maybe have a chance to make a double. So let's go back and take a look at our notes and go to the left category and see how many shots could they potentially hit into the trees. And if we look at our data, this is actually a good sign. 21 yards, there's no shots out of the 14 shots that's gonna get them into that trouble. Now they might miss one. Let's say there's from 19 to 15 yards, there's a 14% chance they can have that miss, and you might get one of those shots that hits, let's say 19 yards left of the target and then bounces into the tree, right? So there's a potential of that shot possibly getting us into the tree line, right? But ultimately, in terms of the ball flying into the trouble, there's a 0% chance. So that's really important to know. Now, the next thing I'd like to start figuring out is, okay, how many shots are going to fall within the trouble line, right? So how many shots are not going to hit into the water on the right and still get somewhere between the pin and the water, right? Let's go find that out real quick. So the first thing we have to do is we have to go figure out essentially how many shots are 18 yards to 0 yards, right? How many shots did we hit that missed to the right? If we look at our data, there's really 3 shots out of the 14 that are going to fall within that range that aren't going in the water and that are basically inside the pin line. Now, what we want to be careful with, though, is we got to figure out, is that green sloped this way, right? Which I know personally it is. So I know that if a player misses it anywhere right at the green, they're actually going to bounce into the water. So actually our playable range is a lot smaller than what Google Earth tells us, right? That's why course knowledge is really important. But let's go hop back to Google Earth real quick and be like, okay, now that we know that, so let me show you that real quick, right? So we got roughly right around 9 yards towards the fringe of this, right? So if we go anywhere right of 9 yards, we're probably going to roll down into the water. So that's now our new playable range. And if we look at that and we go back to our data, we basically have about 2 of the 14 shots, if we missed it right, are going to be okay. The other, remember, there's 5 shots that we missed right with this player's data set. The other 3 are going to be in the water. So that's something to be very, very basically knowledgeable about. So 3 divided by 14, whatever that percentage is, that's going to be the chance that we can hit into the water if we aim at this particular pin, right? So this is becoming a tough hole for this player already, right? So we want to really, really dive into this next part with the left misses, because I think this is going to bring to light something that I think you guys are missing. So now if we go back to our data set on the ones to the left, we have a 19 to 15 yard category. We have about a 14% chance we're going to hit that. We have a 14 to 10 yard left category. There's about a 7% chance we'll hit inside that. And then the bulk of our misses is anywhere from 9 to 0 yards left. We have a 43% chance to basically miss that. So what I'm probably going to do with this player is, because if we aim at the pin, we basically have a 3 out of 14% chance of going in the water. That's actually breaks something that I call the 80% rule. So if there's less than an 80% chance that I'm going to pull this shot inside the acceptable range, which for, remember, a mid-handicap golfer in this particular hole is not hitting in the water or the trees, then I'm probably not going to try to aim where I'm currently aiming, right? So here's what we're going to do. So currently right now, if we go look back at Google Earth, we can see that we have right around 22 yards to that tree line. And then we have basically 19 yards will get us right around here at basically almost towards the end of the left-hand side of that bunker. What we might do with this particular player is, in terms of lateral deviation, we might move this point that we have right here. We might unclick this real quick. And we might move this over just a smidge right here and then add that point and then see where that puts 19 yards. And now 19 yards is at the base of the tree, right? Now you might be saying to yourself, Mike, well, there's still a chance you can hit it in the trees now. But let's go look at that chance. So if we go back and look at the chance, there's only a 14% chance now he's going to hit it in the trees. And honestly, the trees are a whole lot better than water, because the water is a guaranteed added stroke. The trees, you might get lucky. So if I'm going to have a miss, I would much rather miss it towards the trees than I would miss it over there towards the water. Now, if we go back and go take a look, remember we have 2 shots from the 25 to 20 yard range that will get us in the water. Let's go take a look to see where we currently are with that. And if we go here, we're still going to have those shots that go in the water because of that right-hand green. But again, it's a 14% chance. So now when I do the math there, I'm thinking at this current time, maybe moving that shot a little bit to the left maybe isn't the best decision. And let me kind of explain why. Because again, there's still a 14% chance he can miss in the trees, but there's still a big chance he can also miss it in the water, right? So now we're kind of confused here, right? You're probably thinking, Mike, well, what can this player do to increase their chances? Well, there's something called hitting less club. Let me show you what I mean. So if we go to the middle of this green now, and we go back right around here, and I put a point there, and I go all the way to the right, now we have about 20 yards to hit that fringe area, and then we can go into the water. And then now we have a bunch of room over here on the left to where we're gonna be okay. So now what we can start doing is I can take this point, I can move it over to the left-hand part of the green, add that point, and now for us, every single shot, see how that says 25 yards? Every single shot that we miss to the right is gonna be on the green. And then if we get our big miss, 16-yard miss to the left, it's just going to be in this rough patch here. Now, we're probably going to have a tough up and down, but I don't think we're going to make double. There's not a high percentage we'll make double with that miss. So ultimately, guys, what did we do? Well, we just figured out a way for this player to raise their percentages of not hitting it within basically the big trouble, right? We actually eliminated it to 0 just by changing where they aimed on the green. And the way that we did that was because we understood basically their categories, we understood their lateral miss dispersion, and it's something I think you guys really need to know. So anyways, I'm going to end this video off right now. If you guys have any questions, make sure to contact us and let us know. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next time.